Every deck contractor I have ever talked to has told me the same three things. A wood deck lasts 10 years. Rot is inevitable. And that is just what wood does. You build it, you enjoy it, you replace it. I have a porch on the north side of this ranch house that was built in 1883. Same boards, same joists. My great-grandfather laid them. My grandfather maintained them. I maintain them now. The material cost last season was $3.40, and there is a reason your deck contractor has never told you about this. I was 8 years old the first time I saw the bucket. Summer of 1979. My grandfather was kneeling on the west porch with a galvanized 3-gallon pail and a paintbrush that was older than I was. The smell hit me before I saw what he was doing. Something thick and sweet and sharp all at once, like pine sap, and something else I did not have a word for. He let me hold the brush for about 30 seconds before he took it back. The ratio was written on the inside of the lid in pencil. 3, 2, 1. That was it. No brand name, no instructions. Just 3 numbers and a date from 1952 when he had copied them down from his own father. I'm looking at that bucket right now. The pencil marks are still there. Here's the number nobody talks about. A gallon of commercial deck stain runs between $40 and $60 at any big box home center in this country. The latex and acrylic systems most contractors apply have a documented service life of 5 to 8 years before they crack, peel, or blister. This number does not come from a forum or a blog. It comes from the National Park Service. Specifically, it comes from a 2021 article in the APT Bulletin, the Journal of Preservation Technology, written by 2 National Park Service conservationists, Aaron Gibbs and Catherine Wanson. They've been maintaining historic federal buildings for decades, 5 to 8 years for a modern finish. The linseed-oil systems they use on the same buildings, same exposure, same weather, same wood, commonly last 15 to 30 years before needing another coat. That's not a marketing claim. That's a field observation from the agency that actually owns the buildings. The wood preservatives industry globally is now worth about $2.9 billion. U.S. sales alone run close to $590 million a year. 5 companies hold most of it: Koppers, Lanxess, Woolman, Troy, Lonza. Decking and fencing is the single largest segment. That's the money at stake. About $2.9 billion a year built on a product that underperforms the thing it replaced by a factor of 3. Linseed oil was the dominant ingredient in every exterior paint sold in the United States from the late 1700s until about 1955. 2 centuries. Every porch, every barn, every fence, every window sash in this country was protected with some version of a linseed oil system. My great-grandfather used it. His father used it. This was not folk knowledge. This was mainstream industrial practice. In 1910, the United States Forest Service opened the Forest Products Laboratory in Madison, Wisconsin. By 1950, they had formalized the ranch recipe into what woodworkers today still call the Madison formula. It was boiled linseed oil, paraffin wax, and a solvent in specific proportions. They ran a 20-year field test on exterior window sash using that formula. The untreated control samples fell off the test fence after 6 years. The treated samples were still structurally sound at 20 years, even after all the original paint had weathered off. If you watch the used motor oil video, you already know the mechanism. Penetrating oil fills the wood cell lumens and displaces moisture below the threshold fungi need to colonize. That's what motor oil does on a fence post today. That's what linseed oil was doing on my great-grandfather's porch in 1883, 70 years before the first mass-produced gasoline engine rolled off an assembly line. Same principle, different century. Then in the 1930s, synthetic alkyd resins arrived. They dried faster, required less skill, were cheaper to manufacture, and were easier to sell. By the late 1950s, acrylic resins had pushed linseed oil almost entirely out of the consumer paint aisle. The Madison formula quietly disappeared from extension service pamphlets, not because it failed, not because something better replaced it, because it could not be packaged, branded, and sold at a 400% markup. A recipe you mix yourself in a double boiler for under $15 is not a business model. A $55 gallon of synthetic stain that needs reapplying in 5 years is a business model. If you are the kind of person who watches something like this and actually wants to do it, subscribe. The rest of what I am about to show you only matters if you pick up a brush. The recipe is 3 parts boiled linseed oil, 2 parts pure gum turpentine, and 1 part paraffin wax by volume. That's it. Melt the paraffin wax in a double boiler. Never heat it over a direct flame. The fumes are flammable. Melt until the wax is fully liquid. Pour the turpentine into a clean metal container at room temperature. Slowly add the melted wax into the turpentine, stirring constantly so it does not seize at the bottom. Then add the boiled linseed oil. Stir until uniform. 1 gallon of finished mix covers between 400 and 500 square feet on smooth wood. On a rough-cut porch board, it is closer to 300 square feet. You brush it on warm, mid-70s and up if you can manage it, in thin, even coats. Let it soak. Wipe off any excess after about 15 minutes. 1 coat is often enough, 2 if the boards are dry and thirsty. Dispose of your rags in a sealed metal container full of water. Linseed oil rags are the single most common cause of spontaneous combustion in home shops. I mean that literally. Don't leave them in a pile. I do the porch every 3 to 4 years. The boards from 1883 are still underfoot. The White Grass Ranch in Grand Teton National Park was built in 1913. 14 buildings, original wood, exposed to roughly 200 inches of winter snowfall and 50-degree summer temperature swings at high elevation. The National Park Service maintains all of them with linseed oil systems. Not because they're nostalgic, because after 113 years of field testing, that's what still works. My neighbor 3 ranches over still does this. So does his son. There's a handful of us scattered between here and the Panhandle who never stopped. We don't talk about it much. It's not a movement. It's not a revival. It's just something we kept doing because nobody ever gave us a reason to stop. The rest of the country is replacing their decks every 10 years and calling that normal. If you've got a porch that's rotten or you're about to build one, drop your state and your average summer humidity in the comments. I read every one of them. The ratio needs to be adjusted a little for the Gulf Coast versus the Panhandle, and I will tell you what I would do. What comes next on this channel is the well pump housing my grandfather built in the 50s. Same family of ideas, different problem, and it's held up longer than 3 houses I can name. The porch is still here. The bucket is still here. The pencil marks are still here. That's all I've got.